Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, if you're in different time zones. No matter where you are joining us from, we're thankful that you're here with us today. You are in the webinar of Crucial Skills for Engineering Managers, Ethical Decision Making. My name is Shane Hua. I'm a program manager in the CU Boulder Engineering Management Program. And thank you for signing up. Thank you for being here today. We are super excited. This webinar will be recorded. All of you will receive a copy of the recording in a few days. So if you missed something, that's totally okay. You will be able to catch up. If you haven't found where the chat icon is, that's located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And right next to the chat, there's also an icon that says Q&A. And that's where you can put in any questions you have to our presenters today. Please do not use the chat to put in any questions because we want to make sure all the questions are in the same place. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Nashal. Chat is disabled. I see. Okay. This is a new feature. Thank you for letting us know. Okay. All right. Without further ado, let's welcome our presenter today, Dr. Daniel Mora. Dr. Daniel Mora teaches 3 engineering management specializations, ethical decisions making in the tech industry, technical communications, and principle of leadership leading technical teams. Now, Dr. Daniel Mora, I'm wondering if you can share a fact about yourself to our audience today.
Sure, Shane. Happy to do that. One fact. Okay, so here is one fact about me. Over the past 50 years, I've held leadership positions in many different fields, in the military, science, engineering, small business twice, and in academia. So I would propose that that leaves me with a somewhat unique perspective on leadership and ethics. Looking back and sorting through all the memories and voices over all those years, the one theme I've discovered among employees is that, and I say this truly, that they are wandering through a desert and that they are thirsty. They're thirsty for positive leadership, for supportive, ethical leaders who know how to manage and lead and hold the line. And you know what the fact is? The fact is that most leaders truly don't know their job and the extent of it. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mora. Now, would you like to tell us a little bit more about the ethical decision making in the tech industry?
Yes, and I think we have about 15 minutes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, there are 2 ways to do this. One is to simply go through facts about the specialization, or to provide a few stories that highlight why I believe ethics is important, ethics education is important. So my name is Dan Mora. The first thing I would tell you is that ethics isn't just about following the rules. Most people believe that that is what ethics is about. It is not about following the rules. It is about following what is in your heart, your principles and values. Ethical decisions come from the heart. So given that, if one is concerned only about oneself, I have to be honest with you, I would not bother taking this ethics course, Coursera course. If you don't care about people, you won't be able to figure out what all the fuss is about. On the other hand, if you believe in people and their potential for good and evil, and that the leader plays a part in that choice by placing their finger on the scale, so to speak, then this course may be for you. It's about making decisions that are morally right, even when they're not easy, even when no one else is around. It's about a few of the many positive traits of a great leader: integrity, honesty, and accountability. As a new project manager, I had the good fortune to attend a large meeting organized by a mentor of mine, a very experienced program manager on a rather unusual topic. And the topic was whether to lie to the customer. And I call this story Ethics versus the Laws of Physics. So here's the situation. When bidding on a future opportunity with the government, we learned that a competitor was building also. We had information on both their technical solution and the very, very low price they might charge for it. The only problem was they were asking such a low price because their technical solution broke the laws of physics. Our team knew, and we suspected that they knew also, that their solution just would not work. For those of you who spent some time in the science world, you know that you can bend the laws of physics, sometimes to a great degree, but rarely can you break them. So my mentor had gathered his entire program team together to pose this question. Should we propose to the customer a price that was unrealistically low, essentially lie to the customer, or should we continue on track, despite this business intelligence, with a solution and a price that could be realistically achieved? In other words, should we tell the customer the truth or simply a lie? For now, I leave the solution to that question to you, because it is the lesson of ethics that comes from asking that question and determining its solution that provides a context of leadership and management in general. And so ethics in management encompasses the principles and values that I mentioned before, all very important, that guide decision-making and behavior in organizations. As I've said, it's about doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Moreover, ethical managers consider the impact on all of their stakeholders and strive to uphold things like fairness and transparency and respect. Now, there are various ethical frameworks that are introduced in the Coursera ethics courses, such as consequentialism, deontology, and Aristotle's virtue ethics. But don't let those words worry you. Each of them simply provides guidance for managers facing complex moral dilemmas. Those frameworks help managers navigate difficult decisions by weighing the consequences and the duties and the virtues involved. In the realm of business and industry, ethics are paramount. Some people might say, why? It's business, for goodness sake. Why is ethical behavior important? The truth is that ethical behavior builds trust among stakeholders, among customers, employees, investors, and the community at large. When a business operates with integrity, it establishes strong reputations that attract loyal, long-term customers, which is important for the paychecks that you and I receive. Integrity also attracts top people, top new employees to a company. Conversely, unethical conduct can have dire consequences. From the daily news, we've heard about corporate scandals, environmental disasters, fallout from unethical behavior that can tarnish reputations, lead to legal liabilities, and ultimately undermine the long-term success. We also examine another aspect of ethics, which is more personal. One of them is overcoming biases, both conscious and unconscious, that exist within all of us. A long time ago, I learned about bias, and it goes like this. It gets cold in the mountains in February, below freezing. Having grown up in the deep South, I am definitely not a fan of the cold. Those of you who've been to the mountains in the winter have probably seen how underground water can seep through the rock and freeze on the sides of exposed cliffs. Pardon me. Speaking of cliffs, I am not a rock climber, and I am not a big fan of heights either. Yet many years ago, I found myself in the mountains in February, 70 feet off the ground, where the water had indeed seeped through the rock and had frozen onto my handholds and footholds. I was attending one of the toughest leadership schools offered by the U.S. Army, about 12 weeks long, As part of that school, my team and I had to scale a cliff. It was about 100-foot vertical rock face. It was a mandatory event, and if I failed the climb, I would fail the course. 2/3 of the way up, I had lost feeling in my fingers and toes based on the ice that had formed on those handholds and footholds. And to top things off, I couldn't seem to locate my path that I was going to take from 70 feet to the top of the cliff. And about the point where the negative voices in my head began to eat into my confidence, a member of my team looked over the cliff and said one of the most important, ethically important, and amazing things I've ever heard. He said, "How's it going, Dan?" I responded that I couldn't locate my next handhold. He pointed it out, and with some difficulty and slipping on the frozen rock face, I made it to the top and continued on with my team. And as I continued on, an idea exploded into my mind. And it was this: what was the color of the face of the person who looked over the edge and offered me help? I don't know if that question makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but coming from the deep South, it most definitely made me feel uncomfortable. And I asked myself, really, does the color of one's skin really matter at all? And this impinges on ethics. Or does the real meaning of a person come from their heart? My conclusion: bias is a disease. But is there an even larger ethical issue? Should we allow ourselves to be driven by bias or what we're told these days to believe? Or should you and I, as leaders, research for ourselves to discover what is right and what is true, instead of listening to someone else tell us what is right and true? And should we use that right and true information to establish ethical principles by which we will stand and always stand? You see, the reason I teach this course is that I want the graduates to be able to avoid being swept along with the mob, and instead to be able to stand against the tide, to be a leader in the truest sense of the word, going forward with what they have researched and that they know to be right and true. So the value of ethics for managers in business, industry, government, and maybe there are some military people online today, cannot be overstated. Ethical leadership is not just a moral imperative. It also practically appears very high on the list of qualities that CEOs and hiring managers look for when hiring new leaders. Trust me, I've been there on too many hiring teams. They're looking for people they can trust and for leaders who the employees can trust. In closing, I would say that I've offered a few reasons why learning ethics is valuable, but there's another secret that not many people discuss and that you will not find in books. It is a higher level reason for studying ethics that I teach. A long time ago, again as a project manager, I was faced with a situation where the customer was visiting our company to receive a briefing from my team on the status of our project. Not an uncommon event. However, my program at the time was slightly behind schedule and slightly over budget. For those of you familiar with project management, you know that this is not a good place to be, behind schedule and over budget. So the customer was coming to visit to measure the work completed versus the money spent. And in preparation, we had an administrative stop date on Friday, and a customer briefing was on the following Monday. On this project, I had 3 subordinate leaders called IPT leads, or Integrated Product Team leads. They approached me on that Friday before our briefing and offered to work over the weekend to improve our work accomplished and so that our numbers would appear better. Good idea, right? Although working after the administrative stop date was not allowed, they stated truthfully that no one would ever know. CEO wouldn't know, the team wouldn't know, no one else would ever know. And the team and the company would look much better in the customer's eyes. So what were the options? Well, allow them to work. The customer would never know, and neither would anyone else, or not work over the weekend and take the verbal punishment and possible other severe consequences the following Monday. For a leader, writ large, what is the proper decision here? What would be your decision? And what was my decision? And that brings me to the conclusion as to why I think ethical leadership, and especially ethical education, like what we're talking about here, may be critical for us as leaders. And here's the secret. It's not about us. It's about those who come after us, those who will take up our place as the next project managers after we move on. Those young IPT leads or other subordinate leaders like them, listen, are our professional children, if you will. If they admire us, they follow our example. And what decisions will they make after I'm gone or after you're gone? Well, they say to themselves, well, I like Dan, and Dan determined that it was okay to lie to the customer, so then maybe it's okay for me to lie to the customer also. And in the end, what impact does my decision to cheat and lie have on those 3 young IPT leads? Is my decision just about me or just about today? Or do my actions resonate through time and spread out like ripples on a pond? What damage does a leader's unethical decision today cause to the decisions made by our young followers in the future? That's what you won't find in the book. I once visited South Korea. The Koreans have a saying about this sort of situation. It goes like this: when an animal dies, it leaves behind its hide, that is, its leather or fur. When a person dies, they leave behind their reputation. And with that, I leave it to you to decide whether a study of ethics may be simply a cool Coursera elective, or whether it might be the most important couple of weeks in your entire life. And with that, I believe we have time a bit later for some Q&A, question and answer. But for right now, let me just say thank you for listening. And I believe Shane has some administration and logistics for you. And we'll see you again in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan. Just a reminder to put any kind of thoughts, questions you have in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. I see you already have a couple of questions popping up. Thank you so much for typing those questions. Now we're going to take a couple minutes to talk about this University of Colorado Boulder. If you are a current student, this is when you can take a mini break, but please do come back for the Q&A at the end. The University of Colorado Boulder is a world-class university with 850 visiting international scholars. We are a Research One Tier 1 institution, and our engineering college is ranked top 19 in the nation, according to US News. We have also graduated 5 Nobel laureates. Our accredited Master of Engineering in Engineering Management degree and certificate offers you the same diploma as our campus degree and certificate. And that's where Dan's specializations are housed under. So if you're interested in taking some of the courses just on its own, that's a great idea. If you're interested in exploring more, you have the option to look at a 9-credit graduate certificate. And if you have the ambition to obtain your degree, your Master of Engineering in Engineering Management degree, that's a 30-credit degree. Our traditional degree on campus requires a rigorous application process, but our Coursera degree does not require any application or prereqs. There's no letters of recommendation or application fee or standardized test that's required. So no TOEFL, GRE, nothing like that. All you need to do is to prove that you can do the work by earning a 3.0 CU GPA and complete one of our pathway specialization in either finance for technical managers or project management. The specializations are 3 credits, and each of them include 3 one-credit courses. So in order to complete a specialization, you will have to complete all 3 of those one-credit courses. Once you meet those admission criteria, the 3.0 CU GPA and the pathway specialization is completed, then you'll be automatically admitted to the Master of Engineering in Engineering Management degree. And that's what we call performance-based admissions. If you're not ready to take on the whole degree or the graduate certificate, there is definitely light touch options. Starting from preview some of our non-credit courses, including dance courses, using your monthly Coursera subscription. So your $59 a month Coursera monthly subscription will give you access to most of the materials in those courses, including the videos and recording, and you will earn that Coursera certification of completion. I think we had a question of that in the chat earlier. If you want to earn credits from CU Boulder, then you do have to upgrade and pay tuition. Once you become a CU Boulder student, you will actually have a huge perk, which is that you will be able to get access to all the CU on Coursera non-credit courses for free. And those courses include our 45 engineering management courses, the Master of Science in Data Science courses, Master of Science in Computer Science courses, and Master of Science in Electronical Engineering courses. If you have questions about the degree or the program, feel free to email us, cubouldermem@coursera.org, or you can click on the request information button on the program website. If you want to have a live conversation with an enrollment counselor, then the request information button actually allows you to leave your phone number so that our counselor can give you a call back. They can walk you through the enrollment process and address any questions you might have regarding tuition assistance or how you can get started, which course to get started. The program website is listed at the top. You can also just Google Engineering Management Coursera, and you'll be likely be able to find us. All right, okay, so it looks like we have a couple questions in the chat, and let's take a look and then dive in. All right, the first question, ooh, that's a long one. Okay, Dan, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Perfect. How do you handle a situation where the whistleblowing mechanism in your organization is not functional and you are faced with ethical issues from a line manager?
Good question. And I would also, first let me say thank you to Shane for assembling us all together in one place. Shane does a really fine job of setting these events up so that people can understand more about what they're considering studying. And thanks again to everyone who took the time to be here, those of you who may be watching on video. So the question is, what do we do in a situation where we have a manager who is exhibiting ethical traits that you don't believe with or that you think are unethical? There are a couple paths here, and it is not an unusual question. I get this question all the time from other students. Here's what I think. Number one, you can approach the individual directly by educating yourself in ethics, discovering whether your perceptions are in fact real, that is, that the situation is intolerable and unethical, and approach the individual directly. This requires courage, it requires preparation. You have to set a time to have a cup of coffee with them and to build what you have to say. This is option one. Build what you have to say on what they believe is important for their career. In my experience, it's very dangerous to go into your boss and say, well, I think you're screwed up in this area, and you need to get yourself, flying right again. That's not good. However, if I can frame my ideas in a way that supports what is important to them, then they may be more receptive. So what is important to a boss? Are they worried about their promotion? Are they consumed by the power of their position? Are they, interested in impressing their superiors? If you can frame your comments in what they think is most important, you have a better chance of success. Option two, you can go to HR and explain to them what you're experiencing in terms of it affecting your desire to continue within the company, and it's affecting the quality and quantity of your work. It's important not just to point fingers, but to say how it affects the company. Door number three, you can go to your boss's superior, and I have done this before. But only if you've established through networking some sort of relationship with your boss's superior, and if you know that they can keep your information confidential. That also entails some risk. Door number four, you can leave the company. We all like to have a paycheck, and so it's important that we consider that sort of thing, but we have the option of just voting with our feet. And those are four things that come to mind. But before you proceed, I would recommend that you educate oneself in ethics and leadership so that you know that your perceptions are based in fact. And that's my answer. I hope it helps. And if you have a follow-on, please put it into the chat. Be happy to address it again.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Mm.
We have another question in the chat. This one, I will take it. Erica is curious about, will the diploma read verbatim the same as the on-campus diploma? The answer is yes. On the diploma, there will not be any indication of a Coursera degree or any online degree. This diploma is the same as our traditional program on campus.
Mm.
So there you go. All right, we have just about a minute here. If you have any questions, please feel free to put that in the chat. We might be able to take one more question, as this is a 30-minute webinar. So keep in mind, you will receive a recording of this webinar in a few days. Previously, we had a question about, is there a certification for participation? That is a great idea. Right now, we do not. So for the webinar, attendance is voluntary, and hopefully you learned something from the webinar today that is applicable to you. Perfect. All right, I'm seeing some thank yous in the Q&A feature. If there's no more questions, or if you have a question, then you can take a look at our email address listed on the screen. That will get you access to one of our enrollment counselors. If you have any questions about program, that's a great team to get connected with. All right, we are at time today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks very much.
Yes, have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone.